Hey guys, Summer here, coming to you from Greensboro Downtown Yoga. And today on the Movement Mantra Project, I want you to think of this. Hips are our friends. We want to make our hips as happy as they can be. So we're going to do that through a couple different mobility and yoga focused poses that are going to get our body moving in a way that just feels really nice and juicy. Did you know that the average person sits or lies 22 and a half hours out of the given day? That's a lot of hours in this position. Or if you're like me, I sleep like this, right? All hunched up in a little tiny ball a lot of times. And my hips are just getting really tight through all of that. So how can we combat the fact that only an hour and a half of our day are we not contracting those hips? We can do some really purposeful dynamic and static stretches. So I'm going to take you through a couple that you could do on your own, and then we're going to move through a little flow at the very end. First one right here I call over the fence, and you're going to lift one leg up and then open it out to the side so that the foot turns all the way out. And then you lift the foot back and it comes parallel again. You want to do it with a little bit of speed behind you. So it's not like this super slow strength move. It really is just moving the hip back and forth and back and forth. This is a really great thing you could do. Like say you're standing or sitting at work and next thing you know, you're like, oh my gosh, I've been sitting here for an hour. My hips are feeling really tight. You can stand up and do this about 10 or 15 times. Let's switch and do the other side. And that's about what you want to do, like 10 or 15 times going back and forth. It just will allow you to get into that hip. If you're finding that coming up really high is too intense, take it lower. You don't have to go all the way up each time. You just have these little movements if that's what feels good for you. But it should be a way that you start to feel deepness into the hip. This is what we call dynamic mobility or dynamic stretching because you're actually moving that joint, right? Perfect. Just shake that out a little bit because you might feel a little bit of tightness into the side. I want you to take your feet wide right here with your toes slightly turned out. Imagine if you were to do, for those who might be familiar, like a goddess position right here. We're not going to do that. That's kind of what you're going to imagine. You want to start to shift your weight side to side. And you might feel this more into your inner thighs. It is a great stretch there, but it's also getting that outer thigh and that hip. And the important thing to think about with hips is that it's not all just right here. It's the front, it's the side, it's the back. And so when we look at ways to open up and stretch our hips, we want to get all the different angles. So about 3 more of these. So yeah, you could just stand up, shut your office door, you're working from home right now. So who cares what you look like, right? Let's stretch side. Maybe your kids will join you with you doing it. Last time, each side. Again, it's about 10 to 15 times per side. Come back in and just stretch. Shake that out again. Hopefully, again, you're feeling a little bit into those hips. Next one I want to take you through is a static stretch from yoga that you're probably familiar with called crescent. Big deep inhale up. Exhale, step your right foot back. Drop your knee and push your hip forward. So we tuck the tailbone under. So we're feeling this stretch right here in the front of our leg. Hands can be on our thighs. Traditionally, we lift our arms to the sky. Right now, let's just keep our legs on our thigh. And then bend your knee down and go a little further into that. So this is a way that we're statically, meaning we're holding the position. We're not going anywhere. Stretching this hip. It's finding that same place that we were just opening and closing and now pushing into it a little bit deeper. Hands on the thigh up here or down here on the floor. The floor is a little bit less intense into the hip, but it does round into the shoulders. So you kind of find a way that feels authentic and real to your body. And we want to hold a static stretch for about 30 to 60 seconds. Research really shows us that anything less than that is just skimming the surface of getting into that deep part of the muscle. And there's a lot of science with how your muscle reacts and that I don't want to get into in this video. But just know that it is important that we hold that for about 30 to 60 seconds. And then step in, just kind of shake that out. And let's do the other side. I like to start this from this inhale and then stepping back, just because it feels really nice, to be honest. Lower down. Now you might find that there's a difference. Okay, so let's talk through this. Crescent, knee up off the ground. In this more runner's lunge, as it's oftentimes referred to, knee on the ground. What's the difference? Why do we do one versus the other? Well, with your knee up, you're gonna actually be able to get a little bit more into the hip by tucking under with your tailbone. However, it's a lot more strength, right? This front leg is having to do the work to hold us up. Whereas when we come down, we can still get that tuck, we can still get it, but we take out the need for strength. And sometimes when we're just trying to get a good stretch into our hip, let's ditch the strengthening element of it, right? And I think that's an important thing to remember when you are in a yoga class and you might be like, oh my gosh, my legs are dying in this crescent. Well, just drop your knee down to the ground and do that as a way to still successfully get part of that move. Another important thing to know when we are doing like a static stretch like this, say you have not done anything today, you've been sitting behind your desk and next thing you know, you pull up this video and you're like, yay, you might need to go a little bit shallower. When you are stretching a cold muscle and you try to force it to its extreme lengths, you're at a greater risk of injury. And as a person who has dealt with more injuries than I can count, I want to do everything to help you prevent injury. So if you are cold, just make the movement shorter. It's also why I started you with those couple dynamic stretches. Let's bring our foot down and we're just going to come onto the mat. We're going to do this move called 90-90. It's a little figure 4 type position as well. You've got your knees out in line. Hands are behind you. You're going to lift your knees up and then let your knees fall to the other side. And we just kind of rotate and move our hips side to side right here. And what you're doing is you notice I'm not like lifting my feet and putting them down. No, I'm literally just letting my feet both come to the floor and then fall to the other side, keeping my chest open. This one is working again into those kind of through that hip rotator versus the static hold of the crescent that we were just doing, right? So you again want to go maybe 5 to 10. I think this one feels really great. After sitting in a chair for a while, I'll sit down on the floor sometimes and just do this, and it's like, oh, such a release. I used to have students or people come into my office and they're like, why are you sitting on the floor? And I'm like, because it makes my hips feel happy. All right, one more that we're going to do, and this is a static one as well, that you have probably seen or experienced at some point. You're going to lay on your back where we cross one foot over the other. You're going to take your hand and press on your on your inner thigh to try to get your knee to go out to the side. Oftentimes we'll jump straight to hugging the leg in, which is a different variation on this. But by pushing out on my knee, I'm really isolating into that outer hip. Notice this foot is flexed. By doing that, it just provides some support for the knee and doesn't give too much pressure into the knee joint. So now let's take and hug in. As you hug, you might totally feel a difference, and you should start to feel a little bit more down the back side of your leg. In this holding place, just relax into it. I like to hold right underneath my leg right here because that allows me to pull in a little bit more. Some people prefer the top of their shin. As long as you're not going to pull directly on that knee, it's okay where you're at. Let's switch sides. Place your hand, press against the leg. Again, kind of observe how your body feels. What does this side feel like versus the other side? Not a judgment. It might just give you some feedback about how you sit all day. Like I tend to sit with my legs crossed, or actually sit on one leg, which makes my opposite leg much tighter. Hug in. And the more we can just become aware of our habits and our tendencies with our movement, it really, really will allow us to go deeper into places and allow for a little bit more movement exploration. And release. So that was a couple different moves that you can do. We had our over the fence. We had our lateral shift from side to side. You've got crescent or runner's lunge, 90-90, and then your reclined pigeon. Take the chances and opportunities throughout the day to just sprinkle those in. You don't have to do it all at once, but you can just kind of sprinkle them in and you'll be feeling a lot better. Until next time, I'm Summer. Thank you.